Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Casewell and I'm an STFC Ernest Rutherford Fellow at the University of Leicester. So I research the irradiated atmosphere of brown dwarfs and I'm an observational astronomer. And what this means is that I travel the world and use 8-meter and 4-meter telescopes to observe stars, quite often the stars that nobody has seen before. So I did my undergraduate at the University of Leicester and then I stayed to do a PhD in brown dwarfs. And my research now has taken me to looking at the atmospheres of brown dwarfs and what happens when you heat them up. So a brown dwarf is a failed star. It's a star that forms essentially from the collapse of a big gas cloud, just like a star forms, but there's never enough mass to get squished enough together to start igniting the hydrogen to helium and to create the burning that holds the star up. So once these are formed, they simply cool and fade away. They're physically about the size of Jupiter, but with up to 70 times as much mass. And they have temperatures between about 2,500 Kelvin and 500 Kelvin. So they're pretty cool for a star-like object. And they have molecules and clouds in their atmosphere. And these clouds mean that you can get weather as the clouds move away and around the brown dwarf and as they come and go with time. And this weather, these sort of star-like objects with weather were one of the things that really attracted me to brown dwarfs in the first place, and they still absolutely fascinate me now. The objects I study in particular are brown dwarfs that orbit white dwarfs. So a white dwarf is the dead core of a star like our sun. Our sun will become a white dwarf in about 5 billion years' time. When the sun runs out of fuel, it will expand to between the orbits of Earth and Mars, and anything between there is going to get engulfed, and this is what happens in my systems. So the brown dwarf gets engulfed in this big giant phase, and then the outer envelope gets blown off and you're left with the old core of the star, which is now the white dwarf. It's physically about the size of the Earth, so it's tiny, but it has about half the mass of the sun in there, so it's extremely dense and it's very, very hot, tens of thousands of Kelvin, if not hundreds of thousands of Kelvin. My brown dwarf is now, having survived the death of the star, is now orbiting the white dwarf. It's tidally locked like the Earth-Moon system, so one side of the brown dwarf always faces the white dwarf, and the white dwarf just continually bombards that side of the brown dwarf with irradiation. And this irradiation starts to split up the molecules in the brown dwarf atmosphere, and we end up with a glowing, a bit like we see in the aurora of Jupiter and the aurora in the Earth. Due to photochemistry, and perhaps we also end up with a huge amount of energy transport from the day side to the night side of the brown dwarf. And these are the things I try to research and try to understand. It's extremely important for trying to understand what might happen in planets around other stars that are hotter than our sun, for instance. So I am also, outside of astronomy, I am co-chair of our Women's Staff Forum at the University of Leicester, where I make sure that our female staff are heard, our voices are heard and listened to, and that we have a say in how the university is governed. And I'm a mum to 2 small children. So my advice to you would be, if you want to be an astronomer or to work in the space industry, definitely go for it. Don't let anybody tell you that it's not for you, or you need to be a certain type of person to work in the space industry. That's not true. As long as you're keen, enthusiastic and willing to learn, just go for it. And also, it's not you don't have to make the choice between having a family and being an astronomer or working in the space industry. I get asked a lot how I manage to juggle my children and my career. And it's tough, particularly at the moment where we're homeschooling as well. But it's a lot of fun. You have to be organized, but it's a lot of fun and it's completely possible. So don't let anybody tell you that if you become a scientist, that means you can't have a family as well. That's absolutely, absolutely not true. So good luck.